Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to impartially map out a truly fascinating compilation of information. We're diving into a deep analysis that connects ancient Sumerian texts, the origins of major world religions, and, surprisingly enough, modern astronomy. Now, we aren't here to take sides or endorse any specific theories, but rather to unpack the incredible parallels found within the source material. So let's just get right into it, shall we? It all starts with a simple yet profound central mystery. What could possibly connect 5,000-year-old clay tablets from Mesopotamia, the foundational narratives of Abrahamic and Eastern religions, and the absolute latest gravitational calculations coming out of NASA? I know, it sounds a bit like science fiction, but to find out, we have to trace the clues left behind by ancient civilizations across millennia, just to see how these seemingly completely different histories might actually align. To figure this out, the source material takes us way, way back to an astonishing claim dating back 445,000 years. According to ancient Sumerian texts, beings from a distant planet called Nibiru arrived on Earth. Nibiru is described as a planet of crossing, and its inhabitants were recorded in these ancient epics as the Anunnaki. And the Sumerians didn't just write about them in passing. They claimed these beings actually mapped out our entire solar system long before modern telescopes were ever a thing. And here's where it gets incredibly visual. The analysis compares an ancient Sumerian cylinder seal, which is basically a cosmic map depicting the Sun, 11 planets, and a 12th planet, with a distinct, highly elliptical orbit, directly with the Abrahamic story of Prophet Joseph's dream. You know, the one found in both the Torah and the Quran, where he sees the sun, the moon, and 11 planets. If you include Joseph himself in the metaphor, we arrive at the exact same number, a 12-body system. It's a pretty brilliant textual parallel. Now here's a massive detail that often gets totally lost in modern translations. According to the source, when we look at the original Arabic text for Joseph's dream, the word used is kawkab. This specifically translates to planet, but a lot of modern translations mistakenly use the word star, which in Arabic would be nejm. This linguistic detail is absolutely vital because it locks in the precise count of planets, perfectly mirroring that ancient Sumerian astronomical map. It really shows just how easily history can be altered by a single mistranslated word. Okay, let's talk numbers, specifically 3,600. In the Sumerian texts, this represents the exact number of Earth years it takes for this theoretical planet, Nibiru, to complete one single orbit around our Sun. Because its orbit is described as highly elliptical, meaning it travels way out into the deep reaches of space before swinging back past the inner planets, 1 year for the Anunnaki would essentially equal 3,600 years for humanity. Moving into Section 1, the Anunnaki and the creation of humanity. So when we look at what these ancient texts actually say about the dawn of humanity, the Sumerian Atrahasis epic describes a prior race of beings known as the Igigi. The source material draws this really compelling parallel between the Igigi and the concept of jinn found in later traditions, beings that existed on Earth before mankind. According to the ancient clay tablets, the dominant Anunnaki forced the Igigi into heavy, grueling labor. Eventually, the burden just became too great, sparking a massive rebellion against their overseers. And guys, this is where the linguistic evidence gets absolutely fascinating. Think about the Sumerian word used to describe this forced labor, avot. Remarkably, this exact word, avot, appears in Hebrew with the exact same meaning of labor or servitude. Furthermore, it shares the exact root meaning with the Arabic word abd, which translates to servant or one who worships. So across millennia and completely different cultures, the core terminology linking labor, servitude, and worship remains identical. It literally shaped the words billions of people still use today. So what happens when your workforce rebels? Well, to replace the rebelling Igigi, the ancient texts outline a very specific, kind of grim protocol. First, the rebellion is suppressed. Second, the rebel leader, a figure named Kingu, who the analysis notes is actually a direct parallel to the concept of Iblis, or the devil in later traditions, is defeated. Finally, the texts explicitly state that Kingu's blood is used to create a brand new worker class. The new creation is called Lulu, the Sumerian term for humanity. According to this epic, mankind was literally engineered just to take over the heavy labor. On to Section 2, the Flood, a universal myth. So where does the story go from here? Well, across the source material, almost immediately after the creation of humanity, we see the arrival of a world-ending flood. For instance, the Mesopotamian epic of Gilgamesh contains this stark warning from the heavens. A character is told to tear down the house, build a boat, let its dimensions be equal. The text details an impending global deluge and instructs the survivor to take the seed of all living things aboard a perfectly proportioned vessel. Now, this predates the biblical and Quranic stories of Noah by thousands of years, yet the details are astonishingly similar. But here's the crazy part. Thousands of miles away in ancient India, the Hindu epic, the Mahabharata, tells an almost identical story. A character named Manu is warned by a divine fish that a flood of the worlds is approaching. He's told to build a ship, gather the seeds of everything, and eventually his ship lands on the highest peaks of the Himalayas. I mean, it's the same plot, same exact instructions, but with a completely different geographical and cultural origin. Let's check out Section 3, Similarities of Historical Figures. The source material really plays historical detective here. It maps out these profound mythological parallels between prominent religious figures and ancient deities. For example, look at ancient Egypt. We have the sun god Ra and the virgin birth of Horus by Isis. Contrast that with Abrahamic parallels, the patriarch Jacob, who is symbolically associated with the sun in Joseph's dream, and the virgin birth of Jesus by Mary. The analysis suggests these recurring themes aren't just accidental, but rather different cultural expressions of the exact same historical or archetypal events. If we zoom out and plot this chronologically on a timeline, a much bigger picture emerges. We're talking 12,000 years ago with the massive monolithic pillars of Göbekli Tepe, moving to the Sumerian texts 5,000 years ago, then the Hindu epics 3,500 years ago, all the way up to the formalization of modern religious texts 2,000 years ago. Could all of this just be a coincidence? The source poses a pretty compelling theory. These varying traditions might all stem from one single, much older master source of knowledge that has simply been filtered through different cultures over time. Which brings us to Section 4, Modern Science and Planet X. All right, let's fast forward to right now. How does modern astrophysical research stack up against these 5,000-year-old claims? Well, in January 2016, NASA actually published a fascinating article titled "The Super Earth That Came Home for Dinner." This wasn't ancient mythology, folks. This was modern astrophysics discussing the mathematical potential for a Planet 9 or Planet X hidden way out in the extreme outer reaches of our solar system. Now, scientists haven't actually spotted this thing through a telescope yet. Instead, they identified it through its immense gravitational pull on other Kuiper Belt objects. They estimate it is about 10 times the mass of Earth and possesses a massive, highly elliptical orbit. Just think back to the beginning of this explainer. A massive, unseen planet with a highly elliptical orbit? That is exactly how the ancient Sumerians described Nibiru. And here's where the source material gets a little unsettling. If a massive planet like this actually exists on a 3,600-year elliptical orbit, its eventual approach toward the inner solar system wouldn't just be a pretty light show in the sky. The immense gravitational forces could literally shift underground magma, cause extreme tectonic activity, and potentially trigger the exact type of catastrophic global floods recorded by ancient man. Now, obviously, talk of a returning planet has sparked a ton of doomsday theories over the years. The analysis points out that researchers like Zechariah Sitchin incorrectly predicted its return in 2012 by trying to anchor these Sumerian cycles to the Mayan calendar, which honestly lacked a definitive starting point for that kind of calculation. But while the internet theories completely missed the mark, the actual rigorous scientific search by modern astronomers for this unseen, distant planet continues to this very day. So, this brings us to a pretty mind-blowing final thought for this explainer. As we gaze through our most advanced telescopes, searching the dark edges of our solar system for gravitational anomalies, are modern scientists on the verge of rediscovering an astronomical reality that ancient civilizations somehow recorded 5,000 years ago? Or is this vast, intricate web of linguistics, mythology, and astrophysics just the greatest historical coincidence of all time? I'll leave you to ponder that one. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning the past.